So I have a question for the guys out there. Okay. All right. I asked this question, by the way, to Anthony when we were recording our last episodes of our podcast, Orion Way of Life. The link should be in the description below, so go check it out. We're probably actually going to have to re-record all those episodes because for some reason the audio was just garbage. And not probably have to re-record them. We decided today that we're going to have to record them again and redo those. I did, however, record video, so I'll probably upload some clips of those recordings, and they're going to be kind of exclusive to YouTube in terms of content-wise, because I mean, we just sit down and kind of wing it when it comes to kind of pick a topic and we just go for it, sort of off the cuff. But sometimes those conversations make for the best content, in my opinion. And so I asked him, who taught him how to be a man? And I know the question for me, the answer to that question for me is there is one guy that more or less kind of taught me how to be a man. And he has two thumbs. Not necessarily. I did join a men's group that really helped me, but a lot of it was largely self-taught. And so as we have been generating these discussions here at the Orion Way and talking about masculinity, okay, and there's a big question here. And today I was just watching a clip on masculinity. I guess there's a band out of Great Britain that's doing a lot of music sort of around masculinity. And I saw an interview with the lead singer, and he's really speaking my language. Really like the where he's just sort of talking about dealing with sort of that inner turmoil within yourself, whereas boys and men are kind of taught to stuff it, to cram it, to not be emotional, walk it off, rub some dirt on it, whatever, don't cry. And the more that we have these conversations, the more we talk about this and think about it, I'm so firm on the belief that like healthy masculinity has been lost. And all of this talk about toxic masculinity, all of it, I really believe now more than ever, and I hate to admit this, guys, you're going to see a moment here for me. You're going to see a hard moment for me. I have to admit that there's something to these behaviors. And I hate the term toxic masculinity. I hate it. It's overused. It's completely weaponized. It's misrepresented. Feminists use it as a weapon to beat it over people's heads with, and it's not helpful. There's a song lyric, by the way, from Ben Harper. Any Ben Harper fans out there? What good is a cynic that doesn't have a better plan? That's not exactly the words, but go listen to I Believe in a Better Way by Ben Harper. What good is a cynic with no better plan? And it's so easy to just sit there and toxic masculinity. If you don't have a better plan, keep your mouth shut. That's not helpful. You actually make the situation worse. And telling boys to get it together is not helpful. In fact, that makes it worse. Get it together. You need to get it together. What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. And so here at the Orion Way, we actually had a really, really excellent meeting as a group, as a company over the weekend, where we were talking about all this stuff and sort of our message, sort of our philosophy as a company, and that is we have pretty much decided that toxic masculinity is kind of the same as boy psychology, boy behavior, child behavior. When we see toxic masculinity behaviors, I'm really going to retire that term, and I may use it here and there a little bit, but I'm going to retire that. I hate that term. It's weaponized. It's not helpful. But when I hear toxic masculinity now, what I think are males acting like boys, regardless of the age. And I've said this before. I've met guys that are well into their 40s, 50s, even their 60s, that they act like boys. And when we see like the behaviors where boys are being cowardly, they're doing things that are fear-based. Maybe they're engaging in sexual violence. These mass shootings, unsolicited dick pics. That's one that Anthony likes to hit on often. To me, that's childish behavior. Those are boys trying to be men, or Those are warped behaviors of boys trying to show, oh, look, I'm courageous. Oh, I'm a big shot. They don't truly understand that really being a man, and the term that we're going to use here at the Orion Way is a distinguished man. What it means to be a distinguished man is a different state of mentality, one that boys know nothing about. And I couldn't ask you to drive me around or navigate me through a country that you had never heard of, right? Like, maybe you'd never heard of Belarus, and suddenly we're in Belarus, and I'm like, show me around. You'd be like, huh? Are you crazy? But that's sort of what we do with boys when it comes to masculinity. Like, figure it out. Do it. And boys are lacking good models. They're lacking good guidance. They don't have the steps. They don't have the tools. I was just having this discussion online with one of our dudes at the Orion Way about, you know, we had a situation in one of our men's group years ago. I don't know if I was there or not. I don't remember it. But apparently one of the guys who was one of the leaders of the group had like groped the waitress. And supposedly a whole bunch of guys saw this and said nothing to him. And what we often hear is, come on guys, you got to call each other out. But why don't they? Well, because they're scared, because they're afraid of conflict, because they're afraid of confrontation, because they're afraid of losing approval, because they perceive themselves to be lower value in the group. And all of this is boy psychology. All of it. All of this is boy psychology. Okay? I really feel like I look around me and the majority of dudes that I see are boys trying to prove that they're men. And whenever I see... I'm really not trying to bag on these guys. I'm really not. But when you see these guys that drive these big, giant trucks and they're driving around like it's a goddamn Camaro, I just think, man, he's trying to prove something. And it's just a dude trying to prove that he's a man, and that's not being a distinguished man. It's not. Distinguished men have nothing to prove. They don't need to prove anything, okay? And fact of the matter is, we can't expect boys to abandon these toxic behaviors when they're lacking good role models. They're lacking the proper guidance. We don't teach them. We don't mentor them. We don't lovingly guide them. We just scold them. We just put them down. And we expect them to figure this out and grow up and be real men. It's nonsense. By the way, I was going to cite this book again. You'll probably hear me talk about this book a lot. This book has blown my mind in terms of what it means to be like a distinguished man and male traits and male behaviors. I'm going to be citing it a lot, taking ideas from it a lot. And so we firmly believe here at the Orion Way that when people are talking about toxic masculinity, what they're talking about is childish boy behaviors. Is that males who are boys who never grew up and never learned how to be a man, that they never had any positive role models on how to be a man. Nobody told them, nobody taught them. They just scold them, and the more that they get scolded, the more they stay stuck in being a boy. The more that energy gets diverted into negative or destructive ways. For themselves and for others, okay? And what males need is to be shown the way. The reason why I believe males are jumping in and being like, hey, don't touch her, is because they're boys and they are afraid. They don't know how to act confidently. They don't know how to exercise courage. They don't know how to stand by their convictions and use integrity and stand by what it is that they believe in order to stay true to their own values. They've never been taught that stuff. You look around us, if we look around us, and if you ask most guys what real men do, they'll probably say things like, oh, you know, they drink beer, they grow beards, they drive trucks. No, it's not, okay? Being a distinguished man starts with your mentality. It's all up here and it's all in here. And then whatever follows externally just happens to be a byproduct of that. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. We have to change the conversation, guys. I do believe that most males engage in behaviors that might be equated to toxic masculinity, but we're going about it all wrong. Shockingly, right? We must have better conversations about this, and instead of putting boys down, and stop it, stop being toxic. When you do that, you're being toxic. You're scolding a kid because he doesn't know what to do instead. That's childish. You're being the child. Kids need to be taught, and some of these guys they've never been taught. They've never grown up. So, like, subscribe, go check out our website, theorionway.com. Make sure that you tune into our podcast, and we're gonna have to those because they were good. Stay tuned for a lot more stuff on rites of passage and becoming a distinguished man, someone who has elevated their male status and no longer has to prove who or what they are. So that's going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching.